706, 725. These tiny brains shall do nicely.
So we caught up with a couple of white robes here at PAX East 2013. A new game that was just announced the other week, Tiny Brains, from a new studio. And you're here to show off the game. Can you just give us the quick pitch? What's the game all about?
The game is all about co-op. If that's the quick pitch, that's it. It's a 4-player action puzzler game. You have 4 characters with each a unique ability that's physics-driven, force push, force pull, teleport, stuff that's when you see, you understand and see what it's about. And the cool thing is that they all interact with each other, so the players have to work together to solve the different challenges by using their abilities.
Basically, each of these characters is a lab animal who have so much experience that they develop a superpower. So they must use, since they each have a different unique power, they have to cooperate and use their power together to kind of overcome the test of this nefarious scientist who is testing them.
Yeah. There's not necessarily a set solution to any puzzle or challenge. Basically, the players, with like the tools we give them, as a team, they figure out a way to solve things. So it's a very creative way to actually handle puzzles. That's very unique about the game.
Basically, we started by having one, like you said, one thing in mind. It was co-op. So everything was, what is the best way to create the most awesome co-op experience we create? And we tried a couple of different things and studied a couple of ideas. And we ended up with this physics-based power because it felt like not only they are the most intuitive, like physics power are super easy to understand, they're also the most satisfying ones, and they're also the most deep one because they are easy to understand, yet if you combine them in a certain way, you can achieve results if you're an advanced player that the beginner can never imagine. So we feel we are addressing the beginner as well as the hardcore gamer. So the beginner will have fun just discovering he can succeed this challenge, and the hardcore gamer will have fun feeling that he cheats the level design because he can combine the powers in a creative way to kind of overcome the level like at a super speed.
So we have seen a lot of these sort of physics puzzle-based games, but really co-op sounds like something scary to implement in that. 4 players, all these powers, being able to do all these things. It's kind of difficult to contain what the players can do, isn't it?
Yes, well, sure, that was one of our main challenges, how to have the emergent and fully dynamic aspect of physics, while at the same time not making it pure chaos because it's all 4 players doing all kinds of things together. And I think we find the right balance. It's all about what the powers can do, how it affects the objects, and how many objects you affect at the same time. So you won't have 20 objects to interact with at the same time necessarily, just a few good ones, and that's all it takes to create a very controlled situation that's also very creative at the same time.
So also we are very much playtest driven. So from the get-go we had a playtest every single week. So every week we get a group of 4 players and we don't tell anything. We just want to make sure they understand. So we started with something that was more complex than that, but it was kind of hardcore and hard to understand. So we simplified, and each week we kind of adapt the game and the levels and the challenge based on what the players expect that will. Basically, you're the designer. When you come playtest and you expect something to work, next week it will work.
Yeah.
So this is why we feel like right now everything that player expect to work and everything works as the player think it will.
Yeah,
so we have accessibility even though it's kind of new concept.
Yeah. We're very playtest driven, like he said. We don't have design documents or anything like that, which allows us to figure out ways like control physics and all that to create the good cooperation. We test it, we play test it, sometimes even the crappiest way possible, and have people test it. I'm sorry for them if sometimes it looks broken, but it really helps us learn what's good and what's not and move forward very fast. Basically, the game is only 4 months old, but thanks to that very iterative and hands-on way of building the game, we can go pretty fast.
Basically, we feel like sometimes having a rigid plan and rigid design doc takes your attention away from what really needs to be addressed right now, right? You kind of execute the plan even though there's flaws in it, even though it's not the best possible plan. You realize later that it's not the best possible plan. By not having these things, we can be extremely flexible and always make the game evolve in the best possible direction in every single moment of our production.
So if we talk specifics, you have 4 different characters. what are their sort of characteristics and what sort of powers do they have, and how do these? Can you give any examples of how they combine?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, one of the powers is a force push. It's pretty straightforward. It's like a Jedi, you can push things. Another one is a pull. He can pull things upward towards him. One is very interesting. He swaps position with whatever objects he targets, or enemies, or anything. And the last one creates a block, a physical object, literally. So, just for example, you create the block, you step on it, and you force push it, and it literally becomes like a flying ride where you can jump through holes and things like that. Or you can push something and pull it towards like another place.
Or
you
stop
can
it in midair and then teleport with it. So basically, every powers are made so they speak to each other. They are like all physics driven. So basically, these synergies are not forced. This is not something that we hard coded in it. They are natural synergy that were already working, right? Because it's all physics power, and these physics powers speak to each other. And what we realize is, since all these powers speak to each other, when they play it, the player speaks to each other because their powers speak to each other.
Yeah.
So
that's how we make it like an accessible game, even though it's very deep, is that these combinations are very intuitive. The players come up with them without us telling them that it's actually possible. You know that you can push a block, so someone eventually will try stepping on it and pushing it. And like the 4-player combos or crazy stuff, people will eventually get there.
And seriously, we never get tired of watching new player playing it because of these dynamic, these emergent gameplays. Each group of player has a different dynamic, so depending on who's the leader, who's the best, who's not the best, who can do what, the dynamic is different for each group of player.
So is there even, can you play it alone, or is it solely co-op?
Well, we really wanted to focus on co-op first. So, like for example, the campaign we're demoing here is playable between 2 and 4 players. If you're 2, you can swap with the characters don't have. It's jump in, jump out, so anyone can join in anytime. Really want to create the best possible co-op experience and make it for people easy to join in. Like, you don't restart the game because one of your friends just appeared somehow.
Because I can imagine it would be kind of crazy to create an AI that would be able to play with the human player in this kind of game.
Yeah, but right now we can play 2 or 3 player, and you can swap between the character, a bit like in Trine. And we are working on a single player mode where you have the 4 player. We have a different character who has all the powers. We're still considering how to introduce it because it's much harder to play like that, right? You have to know the advanced pattern. So we confirm that the whole campaign is doable with this character. But it's really not the same level of difficulty, so we're still looking at how to introduce it the best way.
It's an entirely different game as a single-player experience, basically. We
It's
built
really
the co-op.
cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome, but not for the same reasons. It's really mind-blowing what you can do if you control all the powers at the same time.
You need a bigger brain.
Yeah, somehow, yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
maybe it's okay because we wanted a game that the hardcore gamer can share with his girlfriend or his kids or like anyone he wants to. But when he plays it alone, maybe it's okay like for him to have like this really higher level of challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe we're still looking at it, but there will be something.
So we just learn of the game. Where are you at in development, and sort of what's next, and what's the roadmap ahead?
So basically, we recently finished like our conception. This demo is basically, okay, we pretty much nailed the powers, the way the game is gonna go. So now we're in production. We're building the entire game, the whole story, all the challenges, all that. And normally it's moving super fast, like I said. It's been only 4 months, so by end of summer, like August, mid-August, probably we should be done with this and ready to share it with everyone, basically.
And where will it be available? Have you nailed that down?
Sorry?
It's still to be determined. We're looking into PC. This build currently is PC, but we'd really like to bring it to console like XBLA and PSN because it's a great couch co-op experience, and we want to give the players the opportunity to experience it as such.
Yeah. So we cannot announce it officially yet because the deal is not signed, but we're looking into it.
I wonder if they will find out how to open the cage's door.